All right, well, we will start today with some mindful movement. And if you'd like to stay seated, you can. I'm going to stand. And if anybody wants to sit, I will give instructions for that variation as well. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes, whether sitting or standing. And if you're standing, feel the feet on the ground. And if you're sitting, feel the sit bones releasing down. Almost like you can imagine feeling the weight of gravity pulling you down. And then if you're sitting, you can keep your eyes closed for this. If you're standing, you'll likely want to open your eyes for balance. And then we're just going to alternate lifting the right leg and the left arm, letting the knee come up. And even if you're sitting, hopefully you can do that as well. And then back down. And then on the inhale, lifting. Exhale, slowly lowering. And if you're standing, you could really feel how the weight is heavy in the standing leg when you lift the other leg. And then just see what that translates to if you're doing the sitting version. Coordinating with the breath. One last one. And relaxing everything down. And if you're sitting, you'll bring your hands over the edges of your knees. If you're standing, you'll bend your knees and bring your hands onto your thighs. And we're just going to round and arch the back. So if you're sitting, the hands pull toward the knees, the chest comes out and the eyes go up. And then on the exhale, you lean back and round your spine away from the hands and the knees. And if you're standing, the hands just stay on the thighs. Inhaling as we look up, exhaling as we round and pull the belly toward the spine. We'll do one more like this and then we'll add arms. So now on the inhale, the arms come back and the chest opens up. On the exhale, we round the back and just bring the backs of the hands toward each other and forward as the head drops. Inhale, pulling the hands back, opening the chest up, gazing up. Exhale, rounding, palms face out. And we'll do it silently so that you can follow the rhythm of your own breath. One more inhale, one more exhale. And then just rest the arms. If you're standing, straighten the legs. Bring the hands onto the shoulders with the thumbs back and the fingers forward. Make big circles around with the elbows, moving at the pace of your breath. And then you'll just notice where in the circular motion the inhale wants to come, where the exhale comes. And then circle the other way, still coordinating with breath, however your body naturally makes that happen. And relax the arms down, seeing what you feel, maybe closing the eyes if they were open. Feeling the rhythm of the breath without the outer movement of the body, but still feeling the inner movement of the body that the breath creates. And we'll lift the right arm up. If you're sitting down, you might put the left hand out onto your sofa, if you have a sofa, or under the side of your chair, if you're on a chair. If you're standing, you can just leave your hand alongside your thigh. And we'll inhale and reach up. Right hand lifts, exhale over to the left. Turning your gaze up and to the right. And if you're standing, it might be helpful to press down deeper into your right leg. If you're sitting, you might press into your left hand and feel your right sit bone sinking down more. And then really breathe to fill the space that's created by this shape that we're in. Those right ribs nice and open and exposed, and breathing up under them and filling that area. Maybe sinking to the left a little more on the exhale. Challenging yourself to breathe even more deeply on the inhale. The deeper you go in the stretch, the harder it is to breathe, but also the easier it is to fill more space when you breathe deeply. On your next inhale, lift up, return the arm down, and just feel your breath in both the right lung and the left lung. See if it feels more free on one side or the other. It may not, but just see. And then on your next inhale, the left arm comes up. If you're sitting, the right hand can come out to the side or hooked under the chair. And inhale and reach up through that left arm. And exhale over to the right, gazing up into the left. If you're standing, maybe your hips sway to the left and your left foot sinks down. If you're sitting, maybe you apply pressure with your right hand to sink your left sit bone down. Breathing in from the bottom to the top. The whole area breathing. Where is it challenging? Where is it easy? And then on your next inhale, lift up. Exhale the arm down. And then we'll bend the knees if we're standing, and we'll all fold over the legs. And really just let the head hang down. If you're sitting, you may need to come a little bit more toward the front of your seat to allow this to happen. And then just take some breaths into the back body. Feeling the ribs expanding. Maybe imagining that the breath moves up the spine as you inhale. Releasing any tension off the crown of your head as you exhale. Almost like you're pulling the breath up from the earth, through your feet, through your legs, through your torso, and releasing it off the crown of your head back into the earth. Maybe you can even imagine that circular pattern. And then slowly roll up with the chin to the chest. Letting the arms lift as you inhale. Exhale the hands together at the heart. And especially if you're standing, but all of us, stay with your breath as you either move back to your seat or just move into your meditation posture.
So we'll take care to allow enough time to really set ourselves up for a comfortable posture for meditation, for our seated practice. Looks like everyone is going to practice seated this evening. You can take a moment to really invite yourself into the space, into the seated posture, with a sense of care and kindness for your practice and for your being. Taking care to slowly transition from the movement into the stillness, the outer stillness, and now also moving into more of an inner stillness. And I invite you to simply feel the weight of the body in the seated posture. And from the waist down, take a moment to, as best as you can, relax any tension from the lower part of your body. Really allowing your seat to sink down, your sit bones sink down into the earth. And imagining that the earth is holding you in this simple seated posture. And the earth inviting you to deeply let go into her, into the safety of her. And through this grounding and safety and rootedness, we can then begin to also connect with the sky, the night sky above us. So perhaps just minuscule movements to straighten the spine a bit so that you can feel the vertebrae move away from one another, creating some space in the back body. Maybe even slightly lifting the crown of the head upwards towards the sky. And keeping this nice lifting sensation, at the same time allow the body to relax. Feeling the eyes and facial muscles relax. Allowing the neck muscles to relax more. Imagining if there's any tension in the shoulders that it can simply melt away from the shoulders now, perhaps down into the earth, allowing the shoulders to be soft and more at ease as you let go of the tension from today. And as you come to the front of the torso, you might notice a tightness or a tension in the area of the chest. If you tune in a little bit closer. And just giving yourself permission and the intention to let that tension melt, this tightness melt away from the chest area as well. As you come down into the belly, see if there's any tightness in the belly muscles. And just using the inhale and the exhale to relax out any tension in the belly muscles. Bringing an intention into the hip area now, just to tell the hips that they can relax and be at ease for this time of practice. That it's safe enough to sit here and relax in the comfort of your own home. As your awareness travels down into the buttocks, let any tightness melt away from that area as well. Same as you travel down into the upper legs and then down into the lower legs. Softening all the way down into your feet. And just sending some loving attention down into the feet that carry you all day and giving them permission to just simply relax now as well. And to help us stay connected to our bodies through this time of meditation, you might wish to check in just this evening what feels right to use as an anchor, as an object of meditation that you could softly keep your awareness on to help you stay present for the duration of the practice. Perhaps your anchor is your breath as it simply flows in and out. Or maybe the anchor is the pressure of the buttocks that you notice as you are rooting down into the earth. Or maybe your awareness of the hands is your anchor that keeps you grounded in the present. So for us more experienced practitioners, just choose an object of meditation, choose an anchor that works for you this evening. And then really ground your awareness in that anchor. Let your mind dissolve into that anchor. And let that attention of the anchor be light and loving. So that whenever you notice that your attention has wandered away from the anchor, you can simply pause and then gently return to begin again. So you can think of this anchor as your friend, as your companion for this time of meditation that you simply return to over and over again as soon as you notice, oh, my mind has wandered away. Every once in a while, or perhaps throughout the practice, there will be different kinds of visitors. A sensation in the body, a thought, a feeling, a mind state. And as you keep your attention as best as you can on your anchor, you can just simply invite these visitors in and offer them a cup of tea, perhaps befriending them as well, just as you are befriending the anchor. Not to hold on to them in any way, but simply to be aware and to be curious about what presents itself in any given moment throughout your practice. And as you practice with this type of curiosity, there will come a time that the visitor is ready to move out again, move back out into the world. And you can simply open the door and allow them to leave once more. Returning to your anchor. So we're not looking for visitors. We're not writing invitations for things to come to sit with us. They will simply present themselves when they are ready to come up out of our deeper storehouse consciousness, when they're ready for us to look at them, to learn from them, to listen to them. So there's no need to produce something in the mind. As a matter of fact, allow the mind throughout the practice as best as you can to dissolve into your anchor. So the practice is really quite simple and does not require a whole lot of effort. You're simply sitting here, you're breathing, if that is your anchor. There's a light focus. Just this very, very, very minor and soft effort just to stay present moment by moment. Just enough to keep you present, to keep you here. As you go deeper and deeper inside, see if you can see yourself, observe yourself in new ways. Perhaps discovering an aspect of yourself that you have not seen before, not been in touch with before. In the depth of your heart, in the depth of your being. What is there as you enter this sacred place, this sacred stillness? As you go deeper and deeper into your own inner stillness, perhaps ultimately you can even let go of the anchor And your whole being, your mind, your heart becomes as vast as the night sky, spacious and open. And you can simply rest in that spaciousness, in that openness. Dissolving any notions into that space. As we come to the end of our meditation, take time and care again to become more fully embodied again. Perhaps still connecting to a spaciousness inside the body, still allowing the mind to rest in the body, but knowing that there is a body sitting here. Feeling the breath moving in and out. Feeling the sensations in your hands and feet. In the buttocks connecting down into your seat. And I'll ring the bell 3 times to signal the end of our sitting practice for this evening. Namaste, everyone. I'm just going to mute myself now so that Z can continue from here. Thank you for your practice.
Thank you. So I thought I would speak tonight to pick up from our discussion a couple of weeks ago on the 10 paramis, the 10 perfections, and address one in particular that I thought was kind of a good extension from what we've been talking about in terms of right effort. And that's the parami of resolve. Also because I don't know that resolve is necessarily clear. It's not like, oh yeah, I know what compassion is. It's a little bit vague. So and I think we all just practice resolve to some degree. Like we were asked to pick an anchor and to stay with our anchor. And the mind might wander and to come back to our anchor. And when you resolve, it's kind of like you have an intention and you have a certain amount of determination to follow the intention without exception. So it's kind of, like we make New Year's resolutions and we resolve that we're going to quit smoking or meditate every day or exercise or whatever it is. And so it seems just a little bit more firm than an intention. And to me, resolve is both like the noun. Okay, an intention is a noun. But it's also the verb, it's the action of pursuing what it is that you intend. So, um, and I think it goes really nicely with mindfulness practice, not surprisingly, in that you kind of set something as an objective or an intention, and then really it's you're not going to do it perfectly, obviously. So it really becomes a practice of seeing when you swerve away from it and bringing it back, and when you leave and bringing it back. But it's kind of like this guiding force. So it's like you set a resolve to kind of like lay out the path for yourself. And maybe when you're walking, you might get distracted and see, oh, look at the bird. And suddenly you realize, oh, I've strayed from the path. But the path is there. It's very clear. This is what I intend for myself. This is the direction I want to pursue. And the resolve kind of gives you that anchor, just like the breath or the hands or whatever you use in meditation is your anchor. The resolve is like, okay, whatever goes on, wherever I may wander off to, this is where I'm going to return to. So that's kind of like the function of resolve. And it can be really helpful both in a meditation and just in life. But the key is just like when you're meditating and you have an anchor and the mind wanders, it's not something that you use to beat yourself up about. It's not that, okay, I'm going to exercise every day. And then one day you get busy and you don't exercise. And then at the end of the night, you're like laying in bed and there's all the shame and there's guilt and there's hopelessness and there's like judgment. I'm such a loser. I just set this intention on January 1st and it's only January 4th and I've already missed one day. And it's not about that. It's just a way to realign with your purpose and what serves you, and to also be forgiving and kind to yourself when you go astray. Just like when you meditate, I'm trying to feel my breath. Oh, and my mind's wandering. You don't indulge in, oh my God, my mind is so busy. No, no, no. You just notice it and you're like, oh, yeah, my mind has wandered. Gently bring it back. And it's kind of sweet to say, oh, I know where to return to. I have a home and I can go back every time I leave. And it kind of has that feeling of kindness, of just like, oh yeah, okay. Not like I messed up, but just like I swerved and now I'm back on the path. So we can bring in a couple of the other paramis, patience and compassion, when we're working with resolve. It's really important to recognize, especially, when you resolve to do something that's very different than your habit. I mean, and mostly that's what we're resolving, right? We wouldn't need to make a resolution if we were already doing it. So we probably have a habit that is taking us here, and we want to resolve to break that habit and go elsewhere. And I think it's so important to recognize how deeply ingrained habits are. It's like you have water that goes down the same trench every single day, and the groove that the water goes down becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. The water erodes the path away and becomes this channel. And before you know it, the water only goes down that channel. And let's say for some reason you need to redirect the water down another channel. It's not so easy. You have like let's say it's a rock and it's like completely smooth over here, and you've just created this deep groove from the water going down here every day for the last 50 years. And now you want to make the water go down there. It's going to be a lot of effort. The water is going to want to go down into that same way that it's gone time and time again. So the habit is very, very hard to undo. And I'm just voicing that because when we intend to do something that's different from our habit, we have to have a lot of patience and a lot of compassion, because we have those grooves in our brain. We have these same kind of synapses in our brain that have built these same kind of patterns and grooves. And to create a new habit is very hard. And I just think we need to acknowledge a new habit is so much harder than to follow an old habit. Then we have so much conditioning that goes into the old habit. And so it's a process. It's a process. Day in and day out, the more we orient ourselves toward the new thing that we want to create, the more we can create a new habit. And that can take a very, very long time. And resolve is what keeps us on track. So it's not a short term, like, I'm going to say I'm going to do this, and then look at that, I'm doing that. No, it's like, resolve is like looking at the long goal. You know, I want to create this new way of being in my life, or this new way of not being in my life. I want to stop doing something. And you create a resolve and you just come back again and again and again, and you renew your intention every time you go astray. And we can do some things in our life to help us, because when we're creating a new habit, we need a lot of help. So like, for example, let's say when we wake up in the morning, we check our phone and we decide that's not a helpful habit. And it really isn't. You know, they've studied it, and the first 30 minutes of your day, your creative energy is quite high, and you're just wasting it when you're just going on a device. It's just like, you might as well just forget the 30-minute gift that you're given in the morning. So you can enhance that by writing or doing something creative, or doing meditation at that time, and really using the strength of your morning mind to meditate. So let's just say, for example, you want to get out of the habit of checking a device when you first wake up in the morning, and you want to get into the habit of meditating first thing in the morning. And I'm not saying the morning is the best time for everyone to meditate, but I'm just using it as an example. So you can just resolve that that's what you're going to do, but it's not necessarily going to be easy, because there's momentum, there's habit energy. So one thing you might do is take the device that you're used to checking in the morning and put it somewhere very far away from your bed, and put it somewhere that is maybe difficult to get at, like on a high shelf somewhere. So you're already creating a change in the habit pattern, because when you get up, you're not just going to go right over to the place where your device was and look at it. There's already something that you're doing that's breaking up the pattern. So you might have to go and get on a step stool to go up onto the top cabinet to get your device out. And that gives you a pause where you're realizing, oh, okay, there's not habit energy here. There's very intentional energy here. Is this what I want to do? You might set up before you go to bed your meditation space and make it really inviting and make it so that you have to see it on the way to wherever the device is hidden. So you have to pass the thing that you want to create as your new habit as you get to the thing that you're trying to let go of as your old habit, just to create help for yourself. You know, if your intention is that you don't want to eat sweets anymore, okay, then you help yourself by not buying them and putting them in the house. Or if they're in the house, or let's say you don't want to not eat them entirely, but you want to eat them less. Don't have them in the front of the refrigerator. Have them hidden somewhere in the back so that every time you open the refrigerator, you see the most healthy food in the front. And it takes a little bit of thought to have to get past the healthy food to dig back to get to the cake. Just put in place whatever is going to make the habit less effortless and more effortful, and put the new habit more effortless. Does that make sense? And that's not to say that that's going to make it easy, because you're still going to need to create a lot of things to support you, because some habits are not just habit energy. They're, emotional patterns and, comforts and crutches. And you might need to really find like self-soothing things to do to replace whatever you're getting out of that habit. So, the talk isn't long enough to get into a whole big discussion about that. But I did want to say that, when you resolve to do something, to really understand that the conditioning is in place to do otherwise. Otherwise, you'd already be doing that. Okay? So be very forgiving of yourself if it takes a long time to create a new habit, and just use that resolve. Maybe put it on a piece of paper that you put somewhere visible. Maybe remind yourself of your intention every night when you go to bed, every morning when you wake up. Just reinforce the resolve. And also, when you find yourself on the path, when you've done it, really take it in. Really stop and appreciate yourself, and get the feel-good endorphins from doing the resolve. That's going to create the circuitry in your brain that much easier to create that new habit. So self-congratulations is totally encouraged in Buddhism. It's like, it's right effort. It's taking in the wholesome and encouraging it to grow. So when you've done well, pause and say, that feels good. I really appreciate that I did that. And maybe at the end of the night, reflect on the ways that you have strengthened your resolve, and just recommit in the ways that you haven't. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for your attention. and we will take a short break. I noticed last week Bettina only gave us a 5 minute break, and everybody came back in 5 minutes. So it's 7:34. I'm gonna say let's come back at 7:40, and feel free to bring your beverage or whatever you'd like to accompany yourself into the next hour. We'll see you then.
Well, thank you everyone for sharing. I just so appreciate that we can share with one another from such an open place. It's really the trust that we've built with one another. It's beautiful to feel safe enough to be able to share in these ways as we are. And it's a beautiful thing. So it feels like forever that we have looked at the verses on the faith mind, although it hasn't actually been forever. But we have a chance tonight. We have at least half an hour to look at some of the verses again this evening. So Z is gonna take us to where we left off last time in the screen share in a moment. Or I
No,
guess
I'm
not in
not
the
going to
screen
screen
share.
share.
You're gonna
I put it
put
in
in
the
the chat.
chat,
Yeah.
and I think that nobody signed off during the break, so you should still have it in your chat. I included the one that we did last time, 2 weeks ago, and then the next one, just in case we weren't finished with the one that we've been digesting. Everybody has it, yeah.
So I'm gonna mute, and then whoever wants to pick up first, feel free.
Just a question, are we starting when movement stops, or we can start on the one before if we want, or?
Yeah, so I think that, we talked a lot about the first sentence or two sentences last time. And my recollection, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, my recollection is we didn't get much past that as far as the first paragraph that I put up. So I just wanted to re include it in case there was more that you wanted to say about that paragraph. But if there isn't, we can move on.
I like the when movement stops, beginning there, that first sentence, because I think I've, at other times, younger parts of my life or less aware, I would have thought when movement stops, all is dead. Nothing is happening. There is no life. And this clearly says when movement stops, there is no movement. And when no movement, there is no stopping. So when movement stops, life goes on, I think, as always, that maybe I'm more aware of it. Um,
I'm pretty fascinated with the concept When such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate state, no law or description applies. In other words, to me, this is saying there's no separateness of everything it's not even oneness, it's just without boundary or definition or anything. So like when I think of spirit, that's how I think of it. It's just an open field, like an open energy field that I would maybe someday merge into and just become part of the field. So that's a fascinating concept to me. That's what I think of as death, is to leave the body and merge into and have spirit merge into some type of pure energy, or there's really no describing it, I guess, like this says, but without limit. Then there is no limit because there is no definition. It seems a blissful concept to me. So this is reminiscent of that.
I'm just gonna, I wanted to ask first of all if, no, it's okay, you don't have to move it that way. I wanted to say, Elaine, did you want to say something because you're unmuted? So, oh, okay, all right. I think that, Linda, you really said it all there. It's, you really got at the depth. I would have never come close to what you just shared about it. It's very profound. I really appreciate that a lot. I can't even go there. So what I could see on a more mundane level perhaps was that when the sentence about when there's no movement, there's no stopping. And I could really see how just in sitting meditation, when we come to a place of stillness in the mind, that there then is really a momentum forward on the path where deeper things can reveal themselves. So there's a no stopping of that, and no stopping of a real awakening. So yeah. Okay. But I can't really get to at what Linda is talking about the when such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. Because Linda talked about death, and the moment of death, I imagine, where the spirit leaves the body and maybe, yeah, like you said, merges into this larger field, this larger space.
Um, I'm just not quite sure yet about the oneness that then also falls away. I'm not so clear about that, so maybe you can either elaborate on that or somebody else can. Yeah, thank you.
It seems that oneness would have to have some definition, even though it's less boundary driven than me, you, I, we, they. Still, it's a defined thing. When I think of it, I think of like a mass of people that are all connected, or I get a thought about something. It seems defined. And I think to go beyond that, it'd have to be, that's why I think the no law or description applies. I think that's why we're having such a hard time right now trying to say what it might be, but just a vast, like an ocean, just a limitless, completely undefined field of, I think of it as energy, but it might be some other something or nothing. I don't know. I'm getting not very much closer than I originally was, so probably not helpful, but I have a feeling about it, and it's a very comforting feeling, and I like the feeling of it. I think it's a worthy aspiration. I think it's Buddhists live their death. You know, they prepare for death every day in their way of incorporating it, not making it a foreign, you know, way out there thing or something. I mean, it's something that it's a lived experience. So I think this would be my way of doing that, is to hold that feeling of merging into pure energy. It would just have no boundary or definition of any kind. No, it would just be pure energy. I think that would be the ultimate bliss state, maybe. So I am hoping that's what it is. None of us knows. I would just like to say that my cat never sits by me at all. She sits across the room. Like if I'm over there, she's here, and vice versa. The only time she does is during Sangha. She comes and she sits on the arm of the chair. She wants attention for a minute, and then she just settles in and she just hangs out. So I don't know what's going on with that, but she's a rowdy character, so it's quiet time for her.
Maybe there's a oneness there. She wants part of the energy. I don't know, but what I was thinking when it talks about such dualities, I often think in terms of the subject object divide. And so if the subject object divide is kind of gone, I'm both subject and object and seeing face to face with everything, then oneness is kind of a label too. Oneness, and we meaning me, but we can get in, not the royal we, but can get in trouble with oneness, because oneness is often confused with uniformity. And I think that maybe not in terms of the text here, so I may be way off, but oneness, to me, for oneness to have, there's got to be, it's oneness with an infinite variety too. So I think I'm just going to go back to the subject object thing and leave it there, because I think I'm in deeper waters now and I'm not sure exactly what I'm saying. So, but I know I'm part of the oneness in saying it, so it's okay.
Well, I'm just going to confuse things even more because I have the entire verses on my computer, and I went back to see, because it seemed to me like, wait a minute, it seemed like a contradiction. Like in the past, it seemed like the verses were saying, you know, abandon the dualities in order to achieve oneness. And now it's saying when you abandon the dualities, there's even no oneness. So I was like, am I misremembering that? And here's what I found elsewhere in the verses. Ding. Which is kind of like saying the opposite of what this thing we're looking at now. It's like if you remain attached to one extreme or another, you'll never know oneness. The inverse of that is if you are unattached from one extreme or another, in other words, if there is no duality, you will know oneness. That's how I read that. That's what my Philosophy 101 class taught me. So, you know, it's saying that on the one hand and that on the other hand. And isn't that perfect for Verses on the Faith Mind? Which is basically saying, hold this and hold none of it. And the truth is not to be gleaned from any definition or any concrete understanding of what it is, but it's somewhere in between. But to me, this line is baffling. Actually, when such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. It would seem to suggest that our goal is to also move beyond oneness, and maybe that's exactly what Linda's talking to, that maybe we not only don't we want this and this, but we don't want this, we want this. So all right.
See, that's exactly what I was thinking, that
Yeah.
oneness is not the ultimate. I mean, I kind of have been thinking that for a lot of years, but this is suggesting it's good, but it's not the ultimate. The ultimate is even beyond that, which, like you say, is like, we don't even know how to talk about it. It's just,
And like it's a oneness without dualities and without singularity too. I also think that these verses they just won't be put in a box that my mind can wrap around it in either. But that may be part of the message.
No, don't do that. Just put it your way. That's control.
I was looking at this again, and let me see. As long as you remain attached to one extreme or another, you will never know oneness. And then what was your one again that you just posted? Because I don't see it
That
anymore.
one.
That
What you
one.
just read is what I just
Okay,
posted.
and
Yeah.
then when such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. So in this moment, I'm remembering how teachers always say, well, there cannot be good without bad. There cannot be darkness without light. So these opposites, how they're basically all one in the sense, not one, but they cannot exist without one another. So that really makes them one. So, so basically, I feel like the ultimate is saying when it says, as long as you remain attached to one extreme or another, you will never know oneness. Basically, we have to let go of any notions. I think that's what it's really saying. We have to let go of notions of good and bad, of good and evil, of night and day. And that when we let go of all those notions, we even ultimately let go of the idea of oneness, because all those notions are all contained in one. And when we let go of these opposites and all these notions, then we are getting to a place where we're even letting go of the oneness
One.
itself. And I think that's what I'm feeling in this moment, that this is
mhm.
really what this is saying. So
Mhm.
I like that, Bettina. I think of a coin with two sides. The coin is the one. There's side A, side B. But say if you don't recognize side A, say side B, maybe you don't even have a coin. You know, because it doesn't have any sides. So I don't. I mean, we are in the scatological weeds right now, but you know, it's thought provoking. I think we're on to something. We're circling.
Thank you, Linda. That really brought it home. I could totally see that. You have two sides of a coin. If you're attached to one side, you're just heads. You're not coin. You're just heads or you're just tails. And then ultimately, when you let go of both sides, there's no coin even. I love that. That really, really drove it home. Brilliant. Thank you.
I think we might have time this evening to move on to the next verses. I think Linda just took us to the ultimate, so we can move on to the next, and maybe somebody could volunteer to read it for us. That would be really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll post it first, and then of course afterwards we'll read it. So Z is still looking to post it. We're not quite ready yet.
Here it comes.
There it is. Okay.
Okay, I'll read it since I haven't really spoken. So, for the realized mind at one with the way, all self-centered striving ceases. Doubts and irresolutions vanish, and the truth is confirmed in you. With a single stroke, you are freed from bondage. Nothing clings to you, and you hold to nothing. All is empty, clear, self-illuminating, with no need to exert the mind. Here, thinking, feeling, understanding, and imagination are of no value. In this world, as it really is, there is neither self nor other than self.
Well, I just want to say that um, obviously this passage is talking about the state of being enlightened. And I like that it's coming here on the heels of what we were just talking about. That oneness itself cannot exist. It's kind of like what we were saying, beyond oneness is the ultimate. So now that we've gotten there, now here's what it looks like.
I have to say it's kind of a knife in my heart to read that. Here, thinking, feeling, understanding, and imagination are of no value, which is kind of what I think of as myself. These are the qualities that represent myself. So on the one hand, I understand transcending that to get to this higher state, but it's kind of a sadness there. I kind of like that I can do those things and that they're part of me, and I think they can be good. So to hear and say are of no value seems harsh. I don't know. This is me holding on to myself, I guess, with my little ego self. No, I'm good. I really am. Self-centered striving. I guess that's where I still am. I don't know. That really hit me hard. I kind of went, wow, when I heard that.
Yeah, that's I think that's what we all struggle with, because the ego, just like in meditation, when we go into maybe a more spacious realm, the ego, if you watch, constantly wants to reassert itself. And I do think, though, that when it says here that it's of no value, it means more that it doesn't have maybe the importance, or it doesn't have the importance anymore, that we can let go of these notions, of certain notions, and so they will not throw us as much anymore, like certain challenging feelings, or when we get sucked into thinking, or the ego mind, that maybe when we come to this place, what it's describing is that it's not bothering us anymore. And when it talks about being of no value, and I think it's just a place of renunciation where feelings can still come in. We might even still be aware still of certain preferences that we have, but they're not of value anymore, in the sense that we're not attached to them anymore. So they're not causing us suffering anymore. And I think that's what's more meant by that they have no more value, perhaps.
Yeah, I was somewhat along that line. I was thinking, for me, thinking, feeling, understanding, and imagination are coping mechanisms in getting along. And what it seems like in the top part of this is that there's no need for coping, because all is well. All is clear, self-illuminating. I was struck, this is just a question, and I have no answer, but what struck me was that with a single stroke, you are freed from bondage. Anyone has any thoughts on that, please?
I think that when you read the discourses of the Buddha, I think that when you read the discourses of the Buddha, there is often a line towards the end where it says, and the 5,000 monastics or whatever, or whoever was in attendance immediately had an instant awakening. So, and I think that's what it's referring here perhaps to. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, some people have spontaneous enlightenment and some people have gradual enlightenment, but the moment of enlightenment is still just like that. Whether it's been, it's just 1 minute there's dukkha and the next minute the next second there's not, and you're free. And, to whatever extent any of you have had moments of that, touched into that, I know for me, when I have been beyond duality and beyond oneness and just in emptiness, I couldn't even imagine thinking, feeling, understanding, or imagining. There's no. It just doesn't show up, and to the extent that any of those things would come in, they would be incompatible with that state of being. They are not only of no value, they are disserving. So ultimately, all of those things are facets of the self, and the self doesn't get us anywhere good.
I think just quickly, you all have helped that what that also that single stroke thing is kind of talking about the radicalness of kind of there's a radical gulf between self-thinking and enlightenment.
Turn down my volume.
Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty. And I think we've come to the end of our ability to share this evening in order for us to stop somewhat on time, but maybe we can just take a couple of minutes just to recenter ourselves in the immediacy of the reality that we do live in prior to our enlightenment. So why don't we just take these next couple of minutes to close our eyes and just take maybe a moment of gratitude for the oneness that we do share in this Sangha. We have perhaps not moved beyond oneness. However, we can delight in the oneness of Sangha, and as I think both Thich Nhat Hanh and the Dalai Lama declared, that they imagine that the next Buddha on earth will be a Sangha. And why not be at our Sangha? We all have a Buddha nature in us, and so we represent that in the world. Just this unity through coming together as a group and being friends on the spiritual path. So we can just take a moment to delight in that ability and the great fortune of having a group of like-minded friends on the path. It's something quite rare that not everybody has access to. So thankfully, even in this time of COVID, we now have the means to gather as a Sangha online, although it may not be our preference, but we have this to reflect on the teachings and to practice together on the path. So maybe taking in how fortunate we are, how privileged we are in that sense, to have this group available, to have a Sangha to practice with, to encourage us on the path. And we'll take one more minute to just practice with one another in silence. And may we share the benefit of this practice time with all sentient beings everywhere, seen and unseen. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may all beings know the highest happiness and the causes of the highest happiness. Thank you, dear Sangha. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and compassion, and for your kindness, for your kind reflections, and just encouraging us all to perhaps contemplate a bit more on resolve for this coming week and how to perhaps practice with that, maybe in a little bit of a deeper way. And then we'll see you again next Monday, hopefully. As my friend would say, if the creek don't rise. So, yeah. So see you all